The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Commander Vex Thor's holographic form materialized above the central podium. His four eyes swept across the assembled representatives of 100 worlds, each face displaying varying degrees of concern. "We have a problem," the Corthan commander announced, his crystalline voice echoing through the vast hall. "The human has survived." A ripple of disbelief spread through the chamber. Counselor Jara of the Pleiadian Accord rose from her seat, her bioluminescent skin flickering with agitation. "Impossible. We sent the Shadowfang, a Class 7 battle wolf from Fenris Prime. Nothing survives an encounter with those creatures." Vex Thor's mandibles clicked in what might have been frustration. "The human didn't just survive, Counselor. She bonded with it." The chamber erupted in chaos. 6 months earlier, Captain Sarah Chen had crashed on the forbidden moon of Fenris Prime after her scout ship took critical damage during a skirmish with pirates. The escape pod had torn through the atmosphere like a meteor, finally embedding itself in the obsidian forests that covered the moon's southern hemisphere. She had expected to die there. Everyone knew the stories about Fenris Prime, a moon so hostile that even the battle-hardened Corthan military had declared it off-limits. The apex predators here, the Shadowfangs, were engineered weapons from an ancient war, left to multiply in the wild after their creators had been wiped out. Sarah had been gathering water from a nearby stream when she first heard the growl. It started as a low rumble that seemed to vibrate through the ground itself, then grew into a sound that made her bones ache. She had frozen, every survival instinct screaming at her to run. Though she knew running would only trigger the chase response, the creature that emerged from the tree line was enormous, nearly 12 feet long, with midnight black fur that seemed to absorb light itself. Its eyes glowed with an eerie silver luminescence, and its fangs were the length of her forearm. This was a Shadowfang, a battle wolf, and she was about to become its meal. But then Sarah noticed something that made her heart clench. The creature was limping, favoring its right foreleg. As it moved closer, she could see the jagged wound across its shoulder, infected, festering, probably from some territorial dispute. Perhaps it was exhaustion, or maybe the loneliness of being stranded light years from home. Perhaps it was the desperate sadness in those silver eyes that reminded her of every wounded animal she'd tried to help as a child on Earth. Whatever the reason, Sarah did something incredibly foolish. She didn't run. Instead, she slowly knelt down and opened her emergency medical kit. "Easy," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I know you could kill me in a heartbeat, but you're hurt and I can help." The Shadowfang's growl softened to a confused whine. It took a tentative step forward, then another. Sarah's hands trembled as she prepared the antiseptic, knowing that one wrong move would be her last. But the wolf stood still as she cleaned the wound. It flinched when she applied the sealing gel but didn't attack. When she was finished, it simply looked at her with those haunting silver eyes, then turned and disappeared into the forest. Sarah collapsed, adrenaline finally leaving her system. She had just touched a Shadowfang and lived. The wolf returned the next day, and the day after that. Each time it brought something: a dead creature for food, pieces of metal from other crash sites, once even a working comm beacon that Sarah was able to partially repair. She named him Ghost. Over the weeks, an impossible bond formed. Ghost would rest beside her shelter at night, his massive form a deterrent to the other predators that prowled the obsidian forests. Sarah would talk to him, telling stories of Earth, of her family, of the stars she'd explored. She wasn't sure how much he understood, but he always listened, his ears perked and attentive. When the Corthan military finally tracked her signal and arrived to rescue her, they were met with a sight that would become legend across the galaxy. Sarah Chen stood at the edge of the forest clearing, hand resting on the head of a fully grown Shadowfang battle wolf. The creature's silver eyes tracked every movement of the armed soldiers, a low growl building in its throat. "Stand down," Commander Vex Thor had ordered his troops. "One wrong move and that thing will tear through all of us." But Sarah had simply smiled. "Ghost won't hurt anyone unless I'm threatened. We're leaving together or not at all." Now in the council chamber, Vex Thor displayed the footage that his scouts had captured over the past months. Sarah and Ghost working as one, defending a colony from raiders. Ghost responding to her commands with precision that rivaled military-trained units. The two of them moving through combat zones like they shared a single consciousness. "The human has weaponized the Shadowfang," Vex Thor continued. Not through force or conditioning, but through something we don't understand. Loyalty, trust, bond. Counselor Jara leaned forward. What do you propose? We offer her a commission, another counselor suggested. Imagine an entire unit of bonded pairs. No. The voice came from the back of the chamber. Ambassador Takron of Earth stepped forward, his weathered face creasing into a slight smile. You don't understand humans at all, do you? Sarah Chen didn't set out to create a weapon. She saw a wounded animal and helped it. That's what we do. We bond with things, creatures, machines, even ideas. It's not strategic. It's who we are. He pulled up another hologram, showing Sarah and Ghost at a refugee camp. The massive wolf allowing children to pet his fur while Sarah distributed supplies. You fear their bond because you see it as a threat, Takron continued. But perhaps you should see it as an opportunity. Humanity doesn't conquer, we befriend. We don't dominate, we partner. And yes, that makes us formidable, but it also makes us the best allies you could hope for. The chamber fell silent as the representatives considered his words. Somewhere on a distant space station, Sarah Chen scratched behind Ghost's ears as they watched the stars together, neither knowing nor caring that they had become a legend. They were simply what they'd always been, a human and her wolf, bound by a trust that transcended species and defied the expectations of an entire galaxy. And in that bond, both had found something worth more than any weapon or technology: a home.